And we are going to start with the news center this morning. Strong buffers can withstand global shocks. This is Dr. Siama. So, the Israel, Iran, Russia, Ukraine, all those things. Dr. Siama says strong buffers can withstand global shocks. So, what buffers do we have? On the financial front, what buffers do we have? Yesterday, we spoke about our fuel needs, and Kojo, it's interesting the kind of storage capacity we have. Post the show, we did some follow-ups, and we actually have data on private sector storage capacity and the public sector storage capacity. And trust me, if we even failed all that and there's a global crisis, we are not going to have enough oil to last us 3 months. And so when we talk about buffers, some of these things are very, very important, that we create our strategic stocks to keep us going. Now, the news center also front page, 1,267 killed in 5 months. Motorcycles alone killed 582 people. This is related to our road traffic issues and crashes on our road. So, as we said, if you have any concerns on road safety, just share them with us. We'll do the follow-ups because we are losing too many people on our roads. Accra East ECG to recover 200 million Ghana cedis in debt. They've already shut down. They've shut down power to Ghana Water, right? And so that's also in the news. And EcoBank invests $24 million in salt projects, create 3,000 jobs. Fitch upgrades Ghana to B negative outlook. Stable. That's the stories on the news center.
Now, the Ghanaian point, there's a story here that's of interest. First says ECG disconnects Ghana Water. Over 999.6 million debt, 1 billion Ghana cedis. We'll tell you more about that. Stay with us. Chairman Bute, so Bute takes over as NPP. Takes over NPP as then team takes medical leave. And don't let your parents down. Maniboma urges Pujo students. And Compassionate Julius Deborah Foots liver transplant bills for citizen I Ghana's sick child. That's it on the front page of the Ghanaian point.
If you go to the custodian, minority endorses Fitch upgrade but cautions government against poor budgets. The Speaker of Parliament is here, an issue that worries all of us. He says he refused Mohammed's NHI board chair offer. And the conversation is that why are we appointing MPs, even the Speaker of Parliament, onto boards when these people are supposed to be the people supervising these executive institutions to do right by us?
Simple. You cannot be a judge in your own cause, can you?
Yeah, you can't. You can't be a referee and a player at the same time.
It's as simple as that. So if you compromise the forum, the forum cannot demand accountability from you, because we're talking about a relationship between, say, ACTA forum. So it'd be between you, Kojo, and me, between us. And if I voted for you, I expect you to account to me. However, if I voted for you and then you get into position, and then instead of accounting to me and me staying away from it, you bring me on board. You bring me on board. Now you bring me on board, and I'm eating with you. People say if your mouth is full, you cannot talk. So how do you hold me accountable?
Like I'm thinking about Adongo and how he was in opposition talking about the economy and pushing. And all of a sudden, Adongo is on the BOG board. How does this person...
See, and the problem starts from our constitution.
Yeah.
Now, the thinking itself, that because a government's budget was rejected. I mean, people have brought up other theories that, not all the members were in there. But the problem is that because a government's budget was rejected, we have said that, we need some members of parliament to be ministers so they can understand the executive.
Yes.
That thinking in itself,
we need to scrap that. This members of parliament, a certain number being in the executive too.
If you want to be a member of parliament, go and be a member of parliament. If you want to wait for the president's appointment as minister, wait. If you catch his eye, fine. But the situation where people go to parliament and they go and catch the president's eye. And I remember when I was a parliamentary correspondent, they want to talk, there's budget. You hear them saying, Enka Sebia, Kasa, now president, don't want one more post. And that's all they did.
Yeah, so Badman says he refused Mohammed's NHI board chair offer. He doesn't want to be the referee and the player at the same time.
There's so much wrong with that. So much wrong with that. I mean, just think about it. Imagine you're, a worker, and your labor union leaders, are supposed to be fighting for better conditions for you from your employer. The next thing you see is that this labor union leader and the employer, they are traveling all around the world and they are having fun. How can you feel any level of confidence that they will represent your interest and not the interest of the employer?
And you see, even the whole idea of idea of social accountability is the rise of CSOs and the media in demanding accountability. But we're actually seeing politicians even getting into that side. Okay, offering positions to actually reduce account. It's like, as for us in this country, everything our politicians and our public officers do is to skip accountability.
Anyway, but Babing would have been a great butcher, former health minister, former MP for years, and all those things. He would have been a great butcher.
And he's currently a great speaker.
Yes.
So let's keep him in one
speaker
place.
over butcher.
But the better about accountability. We'll come back to it. I've been doing a lot of work on accountability these days. So there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said, and why we must be very careful. So you stay with us. We'll get into all of this. We'll get into the other conflict of interest positions that people in Parliament and other agencies of state find themselves in. We'll get into all of that here.
It's just not right, and we need to fix that. Now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs says the government will evacuate some 922 Ghanaians from Israel. That's also on the front page of The Custodian, and Afenyo Markin warns Mahama over judicial capture.
Okay, the Ghanaian Times for this morning: give career magistrates opportunity to upgrade at law school. Justice Bright Mensah. Justice Bright Mensah, I listened to bits and pieces of it when the questioning about the age of consent. Getting to 18 years. You remember his response? He says, "Can they wait?" Anyway, now at Ghana EU Partnership Dialogue. Reform global order to ensure equity in security, financial frameworks, President Mahama, and Fitch upgrades Ghana's credit rating to B- with stable outlook. Sunyani Traditional Council bans Queen Mother from public activities, and Adama Lache expresses satisfaction with appeals court ruling.
The publisher,
the back page says government considering scrapping blood processing fee. That's according to the health minister, and 3,000 smallholder farmers receive training in agriculture innovations.
The publisher leads with the story to do with Professor Angelo Furiata, the wife of Ken Furiata. She says, "My Ken has not run away." It's on the front page. Their opinion this morning is on flooding, and they write that the rains are here again to take lives and flood homes, and they are talking about city dwellers and how we need to plan our cities to prevent the flooding and the related matters.
The Ghanaian publisher says 2-term presidential limit, Mahama's SC nominees back restriction. There's always been that. I don't know where people get that idea from. The reading of the Constitution is very simple.
But why does the restriction need backing?
Well, because some people have actually toyed with the idea that there was the intention of the Constitution was consecutive terms. So once you are voted out, you could come back and then you can serve consecutive terms. I do not think that Mahama is interested in doing that, and the Constitution is so clear: 2 terms. So. By 2029, 7th of January, President Mahama will be handing over to another person as president of the
surprised people are bringing this up. The president says he's coming to leave a legacy in this term. Leave the man to leave his legacy and go home, so that another person can.
That's why I'm even surprised at the idea that the restriction needs backing. But it can't stand on its own. It must be backed.
At some point, Andrew Ejapamesa had contemplated the idea of going to court to prevent President Mahama from contesting the NDC primary, and his argument at the time was that the Constitutional Review Committee's report, I think it's on page 1,000 or so, indicated that we should amend the law to allow a president who loses after his first term to come back. In fact, I'd actually seen that provision. So his argument at the time was that, so his understanding and understanding of that committee, the Professor Fiajo committee, it meant that if you were voted out as president after your first term, you had no business coming back. But of course, the reading of the constitution is very clear. 2 terms. It doesn't say consecutive or whatever. So if you finish, you go home. Still on the front page of the Ghanaian publisher, Fitch upgrade vindicates MPP's legacy as a minority. Government to evacuate 922 Ghanaians from Israel, and minority leader warns of legal crisis ahead. Let's get into
It's
the
interesting. 922 Ghanaians will be evacuated from Israel.
Israel, yes.
But there was a story about several Ghanaians in Iran refusing to leave.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's get into the online news review.
And if you go online, if you go to My Joy Online, there are big stories on My Joy Online this morning, and you can also listen to us live on My Joy Online 247. And oil, gold, travel at risk. Expert on Ghana's exposure to fallout from Middle East attacks. NPP thinks about themselves only and next elections. This is Omani Boama speaking. NPP to elect 2028 flag bearer on January 31, 2026. And Ghana has lost $11 billion to gold smuggling linked to UAE report finds. Kojo and Winston, remember when we started talking about the gold board, the data we reviewed on gold exports, it gives some credence to this report that we are reporting lower figures, but outside they are reporting higher figures when it comes to our gold.
And you see, Kojo, this thing about the gold, just imagine, just imagine if in 2024 we actually had $11 billion coming into this, because this is the point. A lot of these artisanal miners, so that's where a lot of the smuggling comes from. Now, if these people had actually gone through the PMMC at the time, present day gold board, and had exported this gold, and the proceeds brought into the country, now they'll be paid for, but the much needed dollars brought into this country, just think about what it could have done for us. And so it means that even today we're not doing much. In fact, we can do more, and if we're able to deal with that, we wouldn't have the problems that we're having with the constant depreciation and the concerns about the depreciation of the Ghana cedi. And look, even that, beyond that, so these artisanal miners, the small scale miners, if they brought these funds into the country, how much taxes would they have paid to the state, for instance? Okay, so we're looking at the dollars, the much needed dollars, but they'd also pay taxes to the states. And these taxes that they're going to be paid to the state would have done a lot of things for us. So these are things that we must look at. We must not just, throw our hands and just analyze it that way, but we must focus on the impact and deal with it.
Is the gold board the solution to this?
A part of the solution. I mean, they have a major role to play. If the gold board is able to enforce, the whole problem is enforcement, compliance. If they're able to ensure compliance, we're good to go. Because they've talked about the fact that no gold can leave this country without licensed buyers through the gold board. And if actually, that's for the small and artisanal mining. And when it comes to the large scale mining, they've actually struck deals where 20% of it also would go through the gold board. So if we actually ensure compliance, we're good to go.
Let me bring you some other stories on My Joy Online. Fitch upgrade, Finance Minister promises full revival of Ghana's economy, and Mahama reaffirms Ghana's commitment to deepening strategic EU partnership. Now, 4 in 10 children globally will be in Africa by 2050. So 40% of children globally will be in Africa by 2050. Just yesterday, 600,000 of our children finished BC. Charlie, who really is looking at this data and planning for this?
You see,
Nobody. I'll give you the simple answer. Nobody.
600,000
Or
children.
let me be more fair. We are paying people to plan for these things. We have a what's it called? National
Development Planning
Population
Council.
We are paying people to plan these things, but we're doing nothing with the plans. Maybe that's more accurate.
If I had authority with any of the TVET institutions, for example, as we prepare students for BEC, we scope the country, find master craftsmen, find places, and coordinate this so that we put information out to parents that, look, when your child finishes BC, they can go and study this for 3 months or 2 months. They can do this, AI,
Look,
we don't know what we want.
To see at home.
Let me tell you something. We'll come back to the BEC thing because we'd have to help with what they can do while they're home. But I'm sure I've said this before. In 2008, I was actually I went for an international conference. It was Wales in the EU conference, right? And at the time, February 2008, the First Minister of Wales at the time, Rodri Morgan, said something, and I've never forgotten. He said his concern was that in 50 years' time, Europe was going to be the world's old people's home. Because their people are not having children. So his concern was that they're going to be the old people's home. Then he said that America was going to be the world's armory. They've been manufacturing a lot of these things. Australia, the world's quarry. Then India will be the world's office. You've seen it happening already. Today, America can outsource, work to India. They're running some of the American agencies from India. And he said China will be the world's factory. But Africa, sadly, will be the world's graveyard. This was 17 years ago. As much as we were hurt at the time, nothing has been done to convince me that that would not have happened to us.
Or let me put it this way: every continent has put in effort into making this man's predictions come true, including Africa.
Now, Winston, you read a story on Ghana Water from ECG earlier. Can you share that?
Yes, let's get into the details about Ghana Water being disconnected by ECG. I mean, they owe 1 billion Ghana cedis. So the Electricity Company of Ghana has disconnected, the Ghana Water Company Limited from the national power grid over an outstanding debt of 999.6 million in a sweeping revenue mobilization and disconnection campaign targeting heavily indebted institutions. Now, the disconnection occurred on Tuesday, June 17, as ECG's task force intensified efforts to recover significant arrears from both public and private entities, and the move, according to ECG officials, is part of a broader strategy to address chronic non-payment challenges and improve the financial sustainability of Ghana's power sector. Well, now, shortly after disconnecting Ghana Water Company Limited, the task force visited the premise of the GBC, which was also disconnected for failing to settle an outstanding amount of 3,153,484 cedis, 98 pesos. ECG stated that GBC had defaulted on a structured payment agreement, leaving the utility provider with no option but to cut power to the state broadcaster.
So did the TV go off?
I wasn't watching at the time.
Kojo Winston, I'm looking at the Ghana Water Company Limited proposal for review of aggregate revenue and requirements and the tariff, which they submitted to PURC in 2022. And back then, they were doing about 255 million in electricity cost every year. And Ghana Water produces about 800,000 cubic of water. We urban dwellers need about 1.5 million cubic of water a day. So they are doing just 50%, just a little above 50% of our water requirement. Now, Ghana Water is saddled with so much debt, and we are not seeing the end of it. Look, if you read the tariff proposal and they say operating cost, right? They say the operating cost of the company is increasing with time. This is due to reasons elaborated earlier, which include GOG new policy on grants and loans. Then they go on to talk about some legacy debt to do with you remember the desalination plant and all those things. And Galamsey is also affecting their operations. They are not getting quality water to treat, so it's increasing their cost. I think that if this continues, in about 5 years, Ghana Water will collapse. They will not get water. And it's one of the big issues that our nation must be dealing with. If they can't even pay for their electricity bills, right? They cannot buy enough chemicals. They have so many issues. Whoever is managing Ghana Water now should be able to come to all of us and tell us that these are the problems, this is how I want to solve it. Because in 5 years, if you look at the trajectory, Ghana Water can totally collapse, and we will not have that asset that gives us water to take care of us.
Who loses if we privatize our utilities? Just a question to ponder, right?